Good evening. My name is Annie Wilson. I'm proud to be the programming supervisor for the FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre, and I'm happy to welcome you this evening for our local reflections on racism. We're meeting today again on a virtual platform, and it offers us an important moment to reground ourselves in physical place. And so I ask that we all take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we all call home, and the First Peoples, Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit people of our places. The FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre is located on the shared traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and many other Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We offer our sincere gratitude and respect to their historic and continued stewardship of this land. And we reaffirm our commitment and responsibility to improve relationships between nations. We also acknowledge Indigenous, Black, people of color, and 2S LGBTQIA+ that have been marginalized for centuries and more. And it is our collective responsibility to take action for a better world that is free from oppression, discrimination, and racism. I am very pleased to be with you this evening. We're continuing our online speaker series that's keeping up the momentum for racial justice and inclusion in St. Catharines and Niagara. The FirstOntario Performing Arts Centre is very proud to partner with our friends from the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Centre and Niagara Region Anti-Racism Association to bring this series to our community. And I'm very pleased to now pass it over to my friend and colleague, Edmund from Folk Arts. He will be our fine host for this evening and hosting a conversation with our esteemed guest for the evening, Jolie Phuong Hoang. Over to you, Edmund and Jolie.
Thank you so very much, Annie. I just wanted to say we really do appreciate that we can partner together with our community and keep this conversation going. It is a very important conversation, and we will continue to bring you these sessions frequently, just to make sure that everybody is aware of the work that we're trying to do and the goals that we want to accomplish. So thank you again, Annie. My name's Edmund Fry. For any of those who don't know me, I'm from the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Centre, and have been with the organization for a number of years now, and I'm just still continuing to embrace the opportunity to shift our conversations to this virtual delivery method. So we do apologize in advance for any technical difficulties that may arise, and I do want to say to you all, thank you so very much for joining us, for giving us your time to have this conversation. And now I'm going to read a quick biography for our guest, Jolie Phuong. Jolie Phuong escaped Vietnam in 1983, stayed at a refugee camp in Indonesia for 14 months before arriving in Canada in July 1984. Jolie is a math professor at Niagara College, and for more than 25 years, her career binds with lecturing formulas, mathematical theorems, and how numbers shape life. But only in writing, Jolie finds the solution for her endless unanswered questions of sorrow and grief. Her debut Creative Non-Fiction Anchorless has received several awards, to name a few: First Prize in Literary Fiction, North Street Book Prize, and Honourable Mention in the San Francisco Book Festival. Her essay, June Sisters, made a shortlist Surrey International Writers Conference. Jolie is currently working on her next book, which will be published by Tidewater Press and will be available October 21st. So if I may give you the floor, Jolie, welcome. Thank you for sharing your time with us this evening. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you, Edmund, for having me on this series. And I also would like to say Annie for the introduction and for behind the scene in this series. And I hope I hope everyone hearing me just fine. Just to make sure. Okay, then. I guess thank you for the introduction. I guess I will add more to the a bit to the introduction.
Yes, please do.
Yes, yeah. So I escaped Vietnam with my brothers and sister in 1983. So, but 2 years after, in 1985, my father and my younger sister died during an attempt to escape Vietnam. So it's 2 years after our successful escape. So the third one actually failed. And the grief and the sorrow about their death remained with me for so many years. And I started to write Anchorless in 2014. I completed it in 2017, and I published the book in December of 2019. So it's quite a long writing process, because started to write in 2014, and I kind of paused the process and paused it. Right, I wrote a few chapters and then I paused until I decided to pull them all together. But then when
Okay.
the manuscript completed, I didn't publish it until 2 years later.
Interesting.
And Anchorless is written from my father's perspective, in the voice of his ghost. The story details the 3 escapes that he planned, why he died, how he died, and his desire to live beyond death, to remain between life and death, to live as a ghost beside his wife and his children. The book is about grief, about regret, that expressed and felt by both the living and the dead. It is also about self-healing and acceptance of fate. The story also ties with the periods of Vietnam War, the history of more than a decade of I have to say more than 10 years of human displacement, recorded between 1978 and the early 1990s. The book reflects on how freedom and security in life were achieved through risking lives and with tremendous sacrifice.
Okay. Wow. That is wow. That is quite an amazing tale. And I have to be honest with you. I've had an opportunity to read some sections of the book, and you are an amazing writer. I applaud you for the
Thank you.
subject content that you chose to share. I appreciate your bravery and being vulnerable with your audience. And I have to ask you, as I was reading the book,
Yes.
I was captivated by your words, and I'm wondering, did you write the book in English or did you write the book in Vietnamese and then translate? Because I'm assuming that English was your second language, and yet your mastery of the words, I didn't know that I was I didn't know that I was reading a college math professor's words. I thought I was reading a university English professor's words.
Thank you
You're welcome. Thank you.
for your comments. I wrote it in English.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just, maybe my thought, uh, my thinking process was a bit in Vietnamese, but I knew
Okay.
that I was influenced by it. But when I start writing, I wrote everything in English.
Amazing.
And the
Amazing.
thinking somehow have to switch to the English as well. But
Mhm.
honestly, um, when I write, I discover the beauty of the English language. I had
Mhm.
to say that I want to embrace the language. Um, I think it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Uh, I don't know how to express it. And then I want to discover myself. I used to tell my student that to do math really well, you need to practice. You need to practice every day, thinking in terms of mathematics. But when thinking in writing, I practice what I told my student, that I have to think in English. I also have to think that the subject matter that I can overcome it is not difficult for me, and I try. I just keep on
Okay.
practicing. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, amazing. You did very well, and all the practice made for a perfect book. So thank you again for sharing that with us all. And I do hope that all of you get a chance to read it, because I'm really looking forward to getting through the rest. May I also ask you, given the political landscape at the time, may I ask, how did you recount the history of the book? Were those your memories, or were those memories from additional family members? Was it a group effort, or was this all your genius intellect coming, the words coming to life?
Uh, in fact, because more in the war, most of it happened before I was born.
Okay.
And then when I was born, it's just a few years after, and I realized the most of it in 1975. And at that time, I was old enough to remember,
Okay.
to realize. But if I were going to write this book 20 years or 30 years ago, I don't think I would be able to write it to it just like this. Because as I mature, I realize that I am a parent as well. I'm a mother with 3 daughters. So in the role of the parents, I imagine and I could understand what my father and my mother had gone through in order to shelter us, to create a path for us, and to take a risk and sacrifice for me to have what I have today. So to me, I think is, and then I ask my brothers and sister, my older brothers and sister, and I collect stories. I collect little story from here and there. I also ask my mother, and then to me, I feel that if I don't write it, if I don't ask, it's like I'm open a book and it's in a different language. Like what happened if my daughter and my nephews and my niece, they kept asking about our escape trip. They're asking about their heritage, and we cannot give them a simple answer. We just cannot say, "Oh, I escaped Vietnam and that's it." Like it's a process, and I
Yes.
want them to know that. And then I said, I can not just write it just like a simple story of but I want to put it in the narrative of my father's ghost, because I want to express the agony of not having a dream fulfilled. You know, like you wish to live in a different country. You want to embrace freedom, and you prepare all that for your children. But when it comes to his turn, it's been taken away from him. So, so and the pain and the grief that I felt inside me, I think I put it into my father's voice, and then it's more like create a tone, a very sad tone of a ghost, a regret about life, self healing, and at the end letting go. So to me, I think it was me that letting go.
Okay.
It was me
Beautiful.
that accept the fate that set out for us.
Okay.
So it's quite a process of. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you absolutely did. And again, I appreciate being a parent myself. I also can appreciate how much we can grow once we become parents and once we've enjoyed an opportunity, to grow in an area that we were not aware we needed to grow in. And so, alternatively, I can imagine as you walked through your father's footsteps with his voice, I can imagine how healing that was for you and how much you grew as a parent, but also as a daughter. And again, I applaud you the way you interwove it. I love the details that you shared, and although it was heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, at the same time, I could feel the heavy reins on your father's head as he was leaving his family behind. So again, it was very, very well written, and I'm really looking forward to looking at a couple more sections of the book. May I ask you, as far as leaving Vietnam during that time, was there any type of racism that you experienced, or was it more about the communism that your family was fleeing from?
It's more like a communism and the after effect of the war, the new regime that I had to flee my country.
Okay. And again, it's difficult for us as Canadians, and certainly we all have our journeys. Myself, emigrating from Ghana, West Africa, I think it was 1979 was the date on my citizenship card. So I can imagine my father going through a similar journey, leaving his family behind and laying out the groundwork for us to join him here. But I do not actually recall the details. And so certainly, again, to imagine that kind of trauma just to arrive, and then to imagine any possible traumas once you arrive and Canadians maybe not accepting you because of your you know, your appearance possibly, or your culture possibly. And again, I want to thank you for having these difficult conversations with us, and certainly the topic of this book does not fall in line with anti-Asian racism. However, I do believe that as a Canadian, you might be able to offer some insights in any way, shape, or form. And I do believe that having the courage to have this conversation is definitely a starting point. So I cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done thus far, and everything that you've overcome to reach this point, and everything that you will do in the future. So thank you so very much, Jolie.
Thank you. Yeah.
May I ask you, as far as as far as once you arrived in Canada and your transition as a newcomer, what was that experience like? For myself, we started in Montreal, excuse me, before going to Toronto, before residing in Niagara. Again, as a younger child, I was able to grow up in the Canadian system. So I'm just wondering, I believe you said you were approximately a teenager when you...
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so if you could tell me about your memories as a newcomer, and then we can dive a little further into this topic.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, when I stay in the refugee camp, it was 14 months. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so the typical time for a refugee to stay at that camp at that particular time would be like six months is the max, or 8 months. But what we stay is actually 14 months, because we were able to migrate to Canada because we were sponsored by Hamilton Mountain Fund to help Vietnamese the boat people. So it's more like a private sponsor. So the charity was founded by the late John Smith, who was the MPP for Hamilton Mountain West. And I'm very grateful. And I also want to take this opportunity to once again say thank you to the generosity, to the charity, and for making the decision to sponsor us. And that decision is actually decided my future. So when I first arrived in Canada, I received all the kindness, all the support, the guidance from the members of the charity. I felt that Canada embraced me and my brothers and my sister. And Canada is a land of opportunity and has allowed me to fully practice my freedom and to achieve what I wanted to be. So I can never say enough about what Canada has done for me and my family. And the initial decision is to accept us, to write our name on that piece of paper, 7 of us to sponsor us from the refugee camp to Canada. That decision, I think, is with me for, like, I'm grateful about that forever. Yeah, I can never say enough how gratefulness we are to for John Smith and Judy Smith. They are the founder of the charity.
Wonderful.
And to me, I believe that when I first arrived, so that's how I describe when I first arrived. That's how I experienced. And to me, because I feel that I am being included, that I embraced by all the people who are so kind to me. And often I forget whether or not I experience racism or discrimination, or maybe it's just minor, that it did not affect me at all. But I've heard stories, like, let's say I walk on the street, and I heard from my friends were saying, "Oh, Jolie, be careful. Uh, you may got like somebody just yell out some comment, that is very unkind to you, then I would like to share this. Okay, I would like to share this. I believe that every immigrant has their own story.
Yes.
Some chose to share the painful experience, and some are waiting to be told, right? And some paid an ultimate price to gain their freedom in this country. And for every single one of us, every individual, we love our homeland. Like I'm speaking for everyone here. I should say everyone loves their homeland, right? Their motherlands are deep rooted in their heritage, embedded in their past. Then to leave all that behind, to sacrifice, to start a new life in a new country, uh, the immigrants give so much respect to the country that they actually accepted them, and gratefulness for the country that accepted them. So if then facing discrimination or either intended or unintended, I know that it's very disappointing and very traumatizing. Um, I but I would like to say that awareness is very important,
Okay.
because
Yes.
I when as a newcomer to Canada, when I first arrived, I believe that I should learn the vocabularies. I should be awareness of the situation, uh, and I should learn the vocabularies that associate with the racial slurs, and also the definition of words that related to the topics. And I took English lesson. I took, but I am not sure if those are actually implemented into the curriculums. You know, like curriculum about racism, discrimination should be built into a workshop or lesson for newcomers.
Okay.
And I would like to emphasize the vocabulary such as identity,
Mhm.
right? So in what sense? Identity in what sense? Definition about race, the difference of race and ethnicity,
Mhm.
right? Racism, and about dominant culture, about oppression, about anti-racism, bias, anti-bias. So there's some level of the meanings in here that we should explore, right? And then we should learn about stereotypes, privilege, and anti-Asians. Learning the vocabularies and then build conversation around the topic will encourage the sharing of individual experience.
Okay.
So let's
I
say the
love
group, yes, and then being equipped with the knowledge and heard all the story and share experience, it will help in terms of the immediate reaction toward the situations. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I love that. I love that. And you put that together very eloquently. And you know, this reminds me that you are an amazing guest for this speaker series because, you know, when we started talking about having this speaker series, it was to explore the idea of a recipe for inclusiveness and equity. And so ultimately we recognized that it was not just one solution, but it was going to be a bunch of things that were added to present a possible solution. So again, thank you so very much for sharing that. I'm hoping that some members of our settlement services team are listening. Usually we do present a orientation to Ontario workshop for newcomers, and
yeah.
it would be an amazing opportunity to include a section on
Yes.
on
Yeah.
anti-racism in that. So again, thank you very much. I will definitely take that feedback to our team, and hopefully we can include the language in some of the training for newcomers, because you're absolutely right. Even as a citizen by myself, I still am struggling to keep up with the changing language and the changing definitions. So I can only imagine if it's, you know, during a transition into a new culture, how much more difficult. So you really have shared some valuable insight there, and we do appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
You're
Um,
welcome. Thank
now,
you.
yes, thank you. And you were mentioning the excitement. So would you call it a Canadian pride? Because I think in our previous conversation, that was the phrase that you had used. And I know that a lot of the time, some Canadians take everything that you are saying for granted. And so is that what you would coin as Canadian pride, per se, that love for the country and that appreciation for the
Yes.
persons who
Yes.
helped? Yes?
Yes, because let's say I just want to give an example, right? So I escaped Vietnam. I
Mhm.
went and lived in the camp. So I obtained my freedom.
Okay.
But at the camp, my freedom was just within just an island and limited to certain factors. But
Okay.
the Canadian prize in everyone, but I am the one who absorbed that, right? I'm the Vietnamese Canadians. I'm absorbed the Canadian pride that I can practice my freedom in a bigger world.
Okay.
Like look in Canada, what I can do with my freedom, the opportunity to study, the opportunity to learn, the to I think the path is actually open up for me. So that's what I meant by the Canadian pride.
Okay.
You have freedom, but what can you achieve with the freedom? Like comparing to a situation in the camp. So I
Mhm.
have freedom, but I could only study English every day, right?
Okay.
And then keep
Mhm.
up with my mental health and all that, and then keeping hope that someday I will be able to be in the bigger world to practice my fully practice my freedom. So to me, that is the Canadian pride in me that I
Okay.
absorb the culture. Uh, the country gave me the opportunity to learn to fulfill my dream. I think that's I just want to put a few words into it. Yeah, fulfill my
Okay.
dream. Yeah,
That's beautiful. Congratulations on
thank
successfully
you.
fulfilling your dream, because I really do. It's all part of the journey, right? And I certainly, not everyone is able to, and so I applaud you for putting forth the effort to get to, to the where you want it to be, and reaching that dream and setting that goal. And I can only imagine you have many other goals now. And so, if I may ask you, so you talked about Canadian pride and Canadian identity, and
Yes.
I'm wondering if is there anything else you wanted to mention before I give you my next big question? I haven't prepared it yet, but I promise you it's a big question. Yes.
Let's ask that big question.
Let's ask the big question. Okay,
Yes,
here comes
please.
my next big question. Because now that I've read parts of your first book, I'm wondering about the new book, Three Funerals for My Father, that's going to be published by Tidewater Press in October 21.
Yes,
Now, you've given me some insight about the first book, written in the voice of your late father as the ghost of
yes.
your late father. And I'm wondering, as you went through that healing process, did that did that increase? Did that better your writing skills? And will this next book be also in your father's voice, or is that going to be in your own voice?
Yeah. So the next book is the blend of my voice and my father's voice.
Okay.
So it's the two voice intertwined to tell different uh, uh, time in different time frame and different story.
Okay.
I had to say that this book, Three Funeral for My Fathers, based on Anchorless. It's based on Anchorless.
Based
Um,
on anger.
Anchorless, my
Oh,
first
oh,
book.
based on anchorless. Sorry. Okay.
Anchorless,
Yes.
my first book.
Okay.
Um, uh, Anchorless didn't talk about my escape trip.
Okay.
Anchorless only concentrate on my father's voice.
Okay.
So he wasn't there when we escaped, when we stay at the camp, and my time in Canada. So uh, the new book talk about my second escape, about the time I was at the camp with my brothers and sister.
Mhm.
Also talk about 2008 when I took my children to come back to Vietnam to visit,
Okay. Okay.
and also it is also mentioned the first year that we arrived in Canada,
Mhm.
and to in terms of evolution in writing, improving it. Um, I feel that I'm ready. To
Okay.
be honest with you, I in the first book, I want to make it more like a creative fiction, non-fiction and fiction plan. And but then this book, I felt that I'm really ready to tell the story. I'm ready to put my real thought on papers. Like, I want to use the word real thought because I have to think in terms of me, right? In terms of me. Besides thinking in terms of my father, in his voice, I also have to put in the real voice of me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to share my true experience as well. My
Beautiful.
true experience uh, and can I review a little bit about that? Is because in this new book, I actually talk about anti-Asian.
Oh, well, that's wonderful, because that was going to be one of my
It's
next
only
questions.
300 words.
Only
In a
300 words. I would love to
oh,
hear some of it, and I
in
just,
a
yes.
story, but the before I read the story, I read that excerpt from the book for everyone. I would like to mention that. Oh, should I read it first? Should I
Um,
read it first?
I think we should make the mention first, because I do, may I make the mention? Because I would love
Yes,
to
yes.
hear it, and I want you to get ready. And I just, I wanted to, inform the audience, if I may, that the excerpt does not constitute the subject of the book, right? Or the tone of your work. It sounds to me like your tone and your subject is more about healing and accepting your feelings, rather than speaking on anti-Asian racism. However, this excerpt is an excellent opportunity for you, the audience, to better understand how anti-Asian racism could manifest. So I would like to turn the floor over to you, Jolie, to give us an excerpt, because I'm going to be sitting on the edge of my seat listening. So please, feel
It's
free.
only 300 words.
I'll be
And
counting every one of
yeah,
them.
the story is actually very, to tell the message, it's just only 300 words. Okay, and then, so let me start reading it.
Okay.
Okay. Mm. Every Saturday, I enjoy my 45-minute walk to the yarn store. On my lunch break, I would cross the street to the grocery store and buy a few items for dinner. On one of my first visits, the store clerk approached me. Hey, you should buy bananas and lots of them. Even though bananas were not on my list that my sister had given me, I picked some up. My lunch would have an additional item, a banana. After dinner, my brothers and sister enjoyed the rest. Each Saturday, the same store clerk would tell me to buy bananas. I wonder why he said this with a smirk on his face. One time, he even put them inside my shopping cart. I ended up with quite a few bananas. I had about 20 minutes left on my lunch break, so when I returned to the store, I took a banana out of the grocery bag and also offered one to Mr. and Mrs. McLeod. Jolie, I noticed you buy lots of bananas. Is that your favorite fruit? Asked Mrs. McLeod. No, mango is. But each time I go to the grocery store, a clerk keeps telling me to buy bananas. He even put them inside my shopping cart. Mrs. McLeod raised her voice a bit. Really? Hmm. Every time, huh? The following week, Mrs. McLeod asked her husband to look after the store and told me that she wanted to go to the grocery store with me. She then asked me to indicate discreetly the store clerk who kept telling me to buy bananas. I pointed him out to her, then walked down the aisles, buying all the items on my list. Mrs. McLeod didn't buy anything, but she had a conversation with the store clerk. After that day, he never bothered me again. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. That is beautifully written. Thank you very much for sharing that experience. And wow. And this is how it happens, isn't it? As
Yes,
far as
yeah.
yes,
Um, may I talk a little bit more about that? Yeah. So it
absolutely,
will
yes,
lead to my into the related to the topic that we are talking about today.
absolutely.
Okay. So to me, I would like to mention the subtle meanings of a racist message. And I have to honestly express that at that time, like exactly like I wrote in the story, I did not know any meaning about the bananas. Okay, I thought that he was kind. The cook was kind, reminded me to buy banana because it's a very healthy fruit and it's abundant with potassium. I have to say that, right? So not until years later that I realized banana is a vocabulary listed under the ethnic slurs. Uh, so if I don't want to spell it out, but um, like an Asian who lost their root, like yellow from the out, yellow skin but white from the inside. But that's exactly when you peel the banana. That's exactly what happened. And I thought it was just a joke, like like I'm not sure if the store clerk has actually been aware of that. Maybe he thought it's just a joke. I just thought that he make it as a joke. Maybe I came from Vietnam, and perhaps Vietnam is a tropical land and grew lots of bananas, and perhaps even export bananas. However, like in this story, it's truly happened just like that. The my employer, Mrs. McLeod, because I work part time at the store. Um, I actually changed her name. Actually, I have to say that I didn't use her real first name, her real name. Then she knew about that, but she didn't want to say anything to me because she just left it for me to. She discreetly told this stalker not to bother me again, and then it never happened again. You see how sheltered I was in terms of my the Canadian embraced me, protected me, but not until years later that I realized that this is the subtle meaning of that. So it's uh, so at that time, if I didn't know, I let it go. You see, and I didn't have to feel hurt about it. I was questioning, but I don't think I was experienced enough in order to explore further. So that's why I said, in terms of educated ourselves, being awareness of the language, the situation, we can realize and we know how to react. What happened if I don't have Mrs. McLeod and I don't happen to offer her a banana and she didn't see that every lunch in on Saturday I have ton of banana and she asked me if that and I told her the story and that stopped, right. So what I learned is the sometimes the racist message can be intentional or unintentional. And a person who said it sometimes didn't not even realize that it was racist. But however, to me, either unintentional, intentional, in the end is still racist and it still hurt the person in the end.
Yes.
Like if not right at that moment, it will be in the future.
Yes.
Right. So right now I'm already an adult and I look back at it. I when I wrote the book, my editor was telling me that Jolie, I would like you to. I told her a lot of things. I wrote it, and she said, "Jolie, you should tell this story. You should write the story." And I realized why she wanted this story to be in the book because it's I hope that is send a message and it's also the meaning behind it that we need to be aware to be the awareness the we have to educate ourselves and like I already I don't want to repeat myself.
Oh, no. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
and it's well illustrated. And again, thank you very much for having the courage to share that story and to have the conversation. And I really do believe that that there's the power in the words when we exchange and when we connect. And so in that example, ultimately you did not have the mindset of thinking that it was that it was an attack on your culture. And for the individual who was perpetrating the behavior, maybe they did not have the aware. We can give each party the benefit of the doubt, but we can still acknowledge that it was racism in some form and have the conversation. And I'm so thankful that you had an ally who was able to come with you and interject on your behalf without causing any, without causing any hopefully negative consequences for either of the parties. And I really, again, this is how it has happened, and this is how it continues to happen, and this is why these conversations are so important. And I do really want to thank you for sharing it with our audience. And on that note, may I just take a quick look at some of the messages, because some have asked if I could repeat your name, and so it is Miss Jolie Hoang.
Yes.
Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, okay. So she is being interviewed by Edmund Fry, if that's what the question was. Thank you very much, Elaine Smithies. And then I see that somebody is thanking you for sharing your story with us. You're a wonderful role model for many of us. So thank you, Jolie. And that's coming from Annie Wilson. And we are also having Helen Tran saying that this is amazing. So thank you all for participating. We do hope that you will share within your networks. And we are just going to, can we keep going and have a few more conversations? Can we keep going? Yes, wonderful. Because I just, you just shared a beautiful example. And again, I'm wondering, although you didn't take the situation as a racist situation, or as as a form of racism, how did you feel during, and how did you feel afterwards? If you could just clarify that for me, because I really do think that's also at the root of the conversation we're having.
Yeah. So to me, I feel that it's an individual choice to be unkind to others by means of disrespectful words, by unacceptable actions. And it is unpredictable, and it might happen at any moment that anyone can not be aware of. And it could create the anxiety and lead to fear, right? So to me, it's just a minor, because it's a word, it's only words, and it's subtle as well. But what happens if it's actually really direct and hurtful? So I honestly, at this moment, I want to take the opportunity to say that I'm saddened and my heart hurt from hearing all the news related to the Asian hate, and it affects me deeply. Um, like I felt the grief. So when life is actually lost and people got hurt, I don't think staying passive or nothing about this is. It's important that we need to talk about this. It's important that we need to discuss about this. And for me, I worry about the safety of my brothers, my sisters, my children, and also myself. And and then it's brought back, like the anxiety and the fear of the unknown, right? Anxiety and fear of the unknown. But here's what I'm telling myself, and I also told my children this as well. I am an Asian Canadian. I lived in Vietnam for 17 years before I left Vietnam. I was educated and taught by my father in a very traditional Vietnamese way. So we were taught to maintain harmony, to say only good things, and and be careful with our expression. But honestly, I taught my children the opposite. I told my children that if any situation happened to you outside, or even whatever, you need to speak up for yourself, and you need to be awareness of the situation. You need to educate it yourself, and having resort in order to uh, uh, resort related to the laws, to support groups, and especially mental support. So and then in the situation that I'm in, I think we need to concentrate on the factor that we can control, by not feeling ashamed or blaming themselves or myself by not letting your confidence shattered by the racist comments or the unkind word or the unkind action of the other. So in that situation, we will keep ourselves safe, right? Stay calm, speak out, seek immediate support, and seek emotional support. And I have to say that where I live and also where I work at Niagara College, I see such a caring community, welcoming and respecting of diversity. I always feel a sense of belongings and confidence. Uh, but then I want to mention that the racism and the microaggression is another word for subtle meanings of the racist message. The implication of racism is still obvious, is still hurtful at the end. So therefore, I think we need to educate ourselves for that. Myself, I educated myself by searching through the internet, look for resources that I can learn from, taught me the action of what I should do. What I'm saying now is actually I've learned from all the resources that I've been through, and also from experience and from what I want to tell my children and my students as well. So um, uh, I I think I think I answered your question. I don't
Oh,
want to.
you did. You did. You absolutely did. And again, I do appreciate you sharing. We have posted some of the resources that you mentioned in the communication in the chat box there. So we're hoping that everybody can take a moment and educate themselves as well as educate their family members, as well as educate their their communities, because it really, as Jolie mentioned, it can go both ways. And ultimately, in that situation, the reaction could have been very different. In those one-on-one situations, the reactions can be very different. And I agree with you that the things that are happening around the world are cruel and intolerable, and we must speak up against them. And I do believe that this is what the momentum that we're building is leading towards. It's about everybody having these conversations and bringing these things into the light and getting people talking about them, talking about how we feel about when it happens, and looking for ways to prevent it from continuing to happen. And again, I thank you very much for sharing. And there was something that you kept mentioning as you were, retelling the experience. And when I see and read your writing, and when I hear you talking about mental health, I'm wondering, so does the writing continue to be your therapeutic outlet, or does the education, or like the ongoing education, continue to be your fuel? I'm wondering if you're straddling both worlds as you continue to heal and as you continue to, step further and beyond.
To be honest with you, if I talk about my father and the book Anchorless, last year, my feeling was different. But this year, I feel that to me, like, you put everything onto words. You put everything onto words. You create a picture. You create a photograph that you can examine, piece it and pieces together. Then I had to say that writing helped me a lot. And plus, I do feel that it's like I discover a different word. Like thinking in mathematics is totally different. You got the answer already, either right or wrong. And then there's step, you go down, you go toward that step, and there's the answer, yes, no, or the answer right, wrong, right? So when you get the right already, no one can tell you that, oh, you did it wrong, right? But in writing, it's different. In writing, is when you analyzing, you have to seek that solution. It's not that the solution is that you're seeking the solution, and it doesn't give you the correct answer, right or wrong. But you are the one who decide if it's right or wrong, when you actually write it. When I'm writing it, I decide for myself, this is right, this is wrong. But in math, it's a theory there. Oh, I cannot change the right to make it a wrong. I cannot change the wrong, make it a right. But in writing, I have the opportunity to do that. So to me, like you said, is probably be a therapy, yeah, for me. Um, and
No, it's great. It's great.
it's
You
hard
know,
to yeah. I hope I answer all the questions.
you
I think
you
the topic
always do,
is far
Jolie.
to your
You,
questions. Yeah.
yes, you always do. Thank you. And I sometimes I go off and then I hear things that kind of catch my attention, and I always try to circle back to them. So I had intended to ask that question a bit sooner, but again, thank you. You answered it so very eloquently, and I do appreciate you sharing and exposing some of your vulnerabilities.
Thank you.
So may I again mention that there is some resources that are available for people to look at. I don't really see. I'm just going to take a quick scan through and see if there's any questions that I missed. And I do not see any questions. Carrie Kennedy wants us to thank all the Mrs. McCabe's in our communities. Shannon Catherine McRae says this is wonderful, thank you. And I do believe that they're all mentioning those thanks to you, because I do believe you've done a great job of captivating our audience. Was there anything that you wanted to possibly add before we take another question or so from my list of questions down here?
Oh, let's ask the question then.
Let's ask the question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get out a good one, because again, you mentioned mental health, and one of the question was the mental health impacts of racism being addressed in a culturally sensitive manner. So that was going to be one of my questions that was going to stir up all conversation, but we just discussed that, so I don't know that we have to re-ask the question.
All right.
Yes, again, I wanted to say thank you very much, Jolie. Now, I believe that there was a video that we were hoping to share. So for anybody in our audience who can stay with us for the next 7 minutes, if I see no more question, pardon me?
I have a question actually.
Oh, you have a question? Okay.
Yeah. So I really one of the question on the list is can I just right back to it? Yeah, you mentioned inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think inclusion should also be in the vocabulary as well. And
Okay.
I want
Yes.
to tell you this is what I think in terms of inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the three words go together: equity, diversity, and
Mm-hmm.
inclusion.
Yes.
So if we talk about this topic,
Yes.
that those are the three that we mentioned. So equity is like fairness, right? So it's the characteristic, fairness, impartial. Diversity, I would like to mention that diversity is physical differences. It's straightforward physical differences, if I understood it correctly. But for me, inclusion is the verb. It's coming from the word included, right? So when it's included, it means it's an action, and I think it's a choice
Yes.
to carry out that action. Okay, so therefore, inclusion is not about including, but manifesting the safe space with a genuine sense of belonging and acceptance, and the environment where the voice of diversity to be heard and to unify. So I want to put it into that context to conclude our talk.
Yes.
Um,
Wonderful. That was so beautifully put, and it's a perfect conclusion for our discussion. And again, we want to have that for anybody and everybody, regardless of how you visibly present, how you sexually orientate. I think it really is about diversity, equity, inclusion for all. And so again, I wanted to say thank you so very much for sharing your evening with us, Jolie. Thank you very much for sharing your insights.
Thank you, and thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for attending, and then
Yes,
and thank you for having me.
you're very welcome. we hope we can have you again. Thank you very much to Annie and the Performing Arts Centre, and to NRA and to the Niagara Folk Arts Multicultural Center. So I do hope that all of you will stay and watch this video for the next 7 minutes. I'm not sure if you're going to see us as the video plays, but we do hope that you enjoy it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm very proud today to speak on behalf of and with my Asian colleagues, friends, and students.
One of the things I appreciate most about being here at UB are all of my Asian colleagues, friends, and students.
I speak today to stop Asian hate and to promote Asian love.
We need to support each other. We need to see the humanity in each person. We need to recognize what Asian and Asian American members of our community bring to this country.
They have brought richness to my life, and they bring richness to the classroom and our entire experience here at UB.
We are all temporary guests on this planet. No one is a minority. We shall love each other and stand in solidarity.
Recognize the biases because they hurt my friends, which hurts me and hurts our society.
I am Chinese.
I'm an American woman.
I am Chinese American.
I am American.
I'm Korean.
I'm Pakistani American.
I'm Vietnamese. I'm Chinese.
I am American.
I am a Malaysian.
I'm Chinese.
I am a white American.
I'm Chinese.
I am American.
I am a Korean.
I am American.
I am Chinese American.
I am Mexican American.
I'm an American.
We are Vietnamese.
I am Indian American.
I am Black.
We are American.
I am Palestinian.
I'm American.
I am South Asian.
We are American.
I am Chinese.
I am Indian.
I am Black.
I am Chinese.
We are American.
I'm South Asian.
We are Chinese.
I'm an American.
I am Chinese American.
I'm Korean.
I'm Chinese.
I am African American.
I am Chinese.
I'm American. I am Chinese.
We are American.
I am Asian American.
I am Colombian.
I'm Chinese.
I am Indian.
I am Chinese.
We are American.
As a proud Jewish American.
We are Chinese.
We are African Americans.
See me as a human being, not a hyphenated being.
It's not called China virus. It's COVID-19.
My ethnicity is not a virus. Hate is.
I am not a minority. I have been minoritized.
My accent does not matter. My voice does.
We don't eat bats. We love animals.
I am an international student. We are not spies. We come to America to study and make the world a better place.
My ethnicity is not a virus. Hate is.
We don't eat bats. We love animals.
It is not called China virus. It is COVID-19.
Show me respect, not violence.
My accent does not matter. My voice does.
Your bias hurts me.
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 Your bias hurts me. Your bias hurts us.
Your bias hurts me. Your bias hurts us.
Your bias hurts us.
Your bias hurts us.
Your bias hurts our Asian friends.
Your bias hurts them.
Your bias hurts them.
Your bias hurts them.
Your bias hurts them.
Bias hurts them.
Your bias hurts them.
Your bias hurts them.
I condemn racism, violence, and hate crimes against the Asian community.
I condemn racism, violence, and hate crimes against the Asian community.
I condemn racism, violence, and hate crimes against the Asian community.
Proud to be Asian.
Proud to be Asian.
I'm proud to be Asian.
Proud to be Asian.
Proud to be Asian.
Proud to be Asian.
Love trumps hate.
Promote respect and love.
Love heals. Hate divides.
Let's leave no haven for hate.
I stand with my Asian family and friends. I will not be silent.
I stand with my Asian colleagues, friends, and students.
I stand with my Asian students and my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian colleagues, friends, and students.
I stand with my Asian colleagues, friends, and students.
I stand with my Asian community.
I stand with my community.
I stand with Asian community.
I stand with my Asian community.
I stand with my Asian community.
I stand with my Chinese friends.
I stand with my Asian community.
I stand with my Asian community.
I support the Asian community.
I stand with my Asian friends.
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 I stand for my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
We stand with our Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
I stand with my Asian friends.
We stand with our Asian friends.
Stop Asian hate.
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 Stop Chinese hate.
Stop Asian 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 hate. Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate. Let's work together to make a better community.
Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.